Hello guys, my name is Khadroth, and today we're going to be talking to you about the rare prism issue as it stands for free-to-plays and cheap-to-play players. So this has often been a topic of conversation for me in my stream chat here. We were actually just talking about it before I decided to go ahead and record this one for you guys, but primarily the big issue that we have with rare prisms is sort of the economy of them. There's so many good things that players need to buy, not only just out of the one-off type of shop, but also out of the monthly shop that players need. And the problem becomes, for newer players especially, it's very difficult to catch up nowadays. I think this is one of the hugest issues facing a free-to-play player or a new player in general, is what to do with their rare prisms. Often my advice is to actually go out there and instead start by buying stuff like the Mystic Codes first, maybe start unlocking your main interludes and getting some of the welfares that you can. Even then, there's still not that many of those. But the real problem becomes as you start adjusting to, hey, I've kind of got the stuff I need to unlock right now, and now all of a sudden I've got this sort of like in-between type of things where it's like maybe you've got some of the other craft essences that, some are definitely better than others, like Mona Lisa and stuff like that, but you've also got others that are very middling, and you're like, they're still good to have, but it's maybe not worth your rare prism right at this moment. So, or maybe again, you just don't have the mana prisms to unlock them. The issue though that I see is that when you end up in this stage, you often have to make this sort of weird risk assessment of, hey, what do I spend the rare prism on? What do I use it for? I see a lot of newer players especially getting baited at this point in time into buying bond grails. Now, bond grails are great, but the problem is with them that they have such a long time by which to pay off. Certainly, if you pop a bond grail on a unit that you're farming with in the middle of a lotto where you're popping all of your apples, you can get a lot of bond points and actually finish off that bond grail and get the 30 quartz out of it. So there is a nice payoff for it, but it takes a long time to realize. The other problem that you're going to have there is even once you get to that point, then you need another bond grail basically to put on your unit so you can keep bonding them. Now, you don't have to bond grail any unit that you already have at bond 10, but certainly if you don't, then anytime you use the unit, then you're wasting bond. A lot of players don't like that. They want the efficiency of it, so they're going to end up doing that. The issue that I see is that you're only going to get somewhere between 2 to 3 bond grails per year. You're just not going to get that many of them given to you. And I know this from basically going through the entire event mat spreadsheet with you guys and looking at that. We've looked at the various campaigns over time as well. You just don't get a whole lot in a year. Now, it is nice that we do get some, and getting them for free is good and all, but you still have the rare prism issue overall of like, well, there's only so many we can buy. The big problem with this is the ways in which we get rare prisms in the game. So as you guys look at this, you have, again on screen, the ability to obtain rare prisms and sort of how it happens. So you can get them from burning a 4 and a 5-star servant. Well, talking about this, if you're a free-to-play unit, or sorry, a free-to-play player, you're not really going to have opportunities to burn 4 and 5-star units that often. Now, I say this, I know plenty of new players that burn units on a whim. Don't do that. That is probably one of the worst things you can do, especially if it's your only copy of the unit. Essentially, having those extra units, even if you don't think you're necessarily going to use them right away, they can attribute to milestones and their completion. You can get all of their strengthenings and interludes done for them, get all sorts of resources out of that. So there's definitely a reason to have them and keep them around. And so the general consensus advice is always to keep every copy of a unit you get up to the 5th copy. Once you've combined all 5 copies, then you can burn, but never burn before that point. So certainly if you're a more free-to-play player, it is going to take you a long time for you ever get any unit to that point that's an SR or higher. So it's not a very frequent flow of income for rare prisms for free-to-play players. Similarly, even then, you're not rolling that often as a free-to-play, so you're probably not going to have a steady income of these things compared to someone like a whale who's going to be spending a lot of money. So then on top of that, you also have other events here that whenever you get the rerun of an event, if you collect the 5-star command code, if you get the costumes out of it, out of a rerun that you had already had the stuff from, then you would get rare prisms. This brings up another issue where we really haven't gotten a lot of reruns. And so as a result of us not getting a lot of reruns, you're not getting a lot of rare prisms. That becomes a big issue because, again, your whalier players are going to get rare prisms just from rolling a lot. They don't necessarily rely on these. But the reruns are certainly relied on, significantly so, by the more free-to-play crowd. So this becomes a huge issue now where, because we're not getting reruns, you're not getting a lot more rare prisms. Similarly, that's also a case of with event reruns, welfares beyond a 6 copy, so 6 copy and more, will give you rare prisms. The problem with this becomes we don't have, again, a lot of reruns, and so even then it requires it to be a rerun that has a welfare. So essentially you would have had to have been around for the initial run of the event, gotten the welfare, then get the rerun, then get the 6 copy or more out of that, and that would be how you'd get rare prisms. Because you're not getting as many reruns, you're not seeing these nearly as often. So we're starting to see the sort of rare prism economy, the inflow into accounts getting sort of choked. And so the only other ways that you guys can really get them are JP added a new feature here on July with their 7th Annie. And that was where whenever you ascend a welfare, you can get a rare prism from that. Well, that sounds great. Here's the problem. One, a lot of people are getting their welfares now from something like main interludes if they're a new player. Those cost rare prisms to even buy additional copies for. So it's going to cost you two per after the first copy. So basically a total of 8 rare prisms per welfare in order to just be able to get them to NP5. So getting 1 back is pitiful and pathetic. So either the cost of that needs to be reduced, or there just needs to be far more income of rare prisms given naturally to players. So while that does help, while it did give a temporary boon of rare prisms to people that were around when that update occurred, especially if they had welfares themselves, we don't really see that because of this. They're not doing as many reruns, you're not getting as many old welfares, and similarly, our newer events aren't exactly welfare happy. They're not happening in every single event that we have. So even then, you still don't have a steady supply. So the only other places you guys can get them are basically from extra missions and login bonuses, aka campaigns, that just happen naturally on JP. They have not been giving out a lot of rare prisms via this over time. So yes, you do get some. Yes, these are pretty much the greatest influx of them that you'll get throughout the year. And so naturally we have the issue of, well, then what do we do? Well, short of them putting rare prisms into events on a more steady basis, which I think would be one of the solutions to this problem, and that would be to take new events rather than reruns and just put rare prisms into them somehow. Maybe it's the completion of challenge quests, maybe it's in the shop, who knows? All I know is they should provide some mechanism so that they don't have to worry about relying on the reruns, and thus that screwing up their item economy for the more new and free-to-play player crowd. So if they do that, that'll help it out a ton. Otherwise, the only other real way that they can fix this is to basically allow either some kind of conversion via mana prisms, which will only benefit the whales even more, because mana prisms are their own issue and they're tight even for free-to-plays trying to catch up. And then the only other way is simply to keep doing what they are doing, but increase that, which would be to give them out via extra missions and login bonuses. So they can do this, they can add some other new source of rare prisms, but naturally, if they don't increase them, we're going to keep seeing this squish, this really hard sort of ability to buy things from the rare prism shop for your free-to-play crowd, for your newer player crowd. And I think it's fine. I think rare prisms are supposed to be rare by nature of what they are, but the problem that we have right now is there's really no mechanism for your free-to-play players to get stuff like bond grails to work on their units, to get stuff like that for working on servant coins and everything else like that. and certainly to grab missing stuff that they haven't gotten because they weren't around for it. So again, missing stuff like mystic codes, main interludes, and welfares for that, and stuff like that. It all becomes very hard for a newer player to catch up. So again, let me know what you think. Let me know how you guys think that they should fix rare prisms, and I will see you guys for the next video. Have a good one.